Good evening everyone. This is just going to be a short intro to a series of videos that I'm going to be doing about my games collection, which you can see behind me. So I've bought myself some new shelves and I've reorganised my collection, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to go through the games that I own and tell you a wee bit about them and why I like them so much. So I'm going to split the videos into probably 3 or 4 parts, and I'll try and do it just by the sections of the shelving units. I also have a shelf of shame which is in my cupboard, and I'll go through that in a later video as well. So not all the games in the collection are actually on this shelf. I do have some others stowed away that unfortunately haven't really hit the table yet. So I will go through that in the near future. But yeah, I thought this would just be a fun series of videos. Just good time to talk about some games and just show you what's in the collection. So without further ado, let's get started right from the top. We're just going to start at the top here. We'll just work our way from left to right. So the first game here is Trogdor, the board game. Now this game is actually based on an old web series called Homestar Runner that I used to really enjoy in my younger days. And it's a co-op game with quite a whimsical theme. It's really tongue-in-cheek and doesn't take itself too seriously. So if you're looking for a good beer and pretzels co-op game, then this is definitely one worth checking out. Next to that, we've got Memoir 44. This is one of 2 games that use the command and colour system that I own, and it's probably the simplest one to learn. So if you're looking to get into command and colours, then this is a good one to check out. It's got a World War II theme, so if you're interested in that as well, it's really good because it's got lots of scenarios that relate to that. So yeah, it's really light war game. Definitely a good introduction to the genre. So next to that, we've got a game called Millenium Blades. Now, Millenium Blades is an interesting one. It's actually a simulation of a collectible card game in a box. So in it, you're buying cards, adding them to your binder, you're playing tournaments with your deck, and trying to score points. So it's kind of the full experience, all in the one thing. Now, it's quite fiddly to set up, and it does actually take a good while to play, but it's a really unique experience. So if you like the sound of that, this idea of playing a CCG or a TCG, but without having to invest in it, then this is one that is definitely worth a look. Next to that, we've got Rex. Now, Rex is actually a reskin of the old Dune board game from the late 70s, using the Twilight Imperium universe, owned by Fantasy Flight. Now, unfortunately, this one doesn't see a lot of play because there's someone in my main gaming group that absolutely hates this game. So as a result, it doesn't really make it to the table. But if you're interested in trying a Dune style like game and you're not really interested in the Dune theme, then this is definitely worth checking out. Just bear in mind that they have reprinted Dune, so if you want that theme, then you're probably better off just going for Dune because it's really reasonably priced and it's also a really nice production. But yeah, that's Rex. Over here, we've got Mage Knight. Now, Mage Knight is a game that I've only played solo. I don't think I would ever play it with more than 2 people because of the nature of the game. In it, you are an adventurer, you're roaming the land, defeating monsters, fulfilling quests, recruiting people to help you. But it's almost like a puzzle game, so it's not really that thematic compared to a lot of other games of this nature. But the puzzle's really good, it's got some really tight mechanics, and it's a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a really deep solo game, then Mage Knight comes highly recommended. Over here, we've got Alhambra, and as you can see here, this is the big box, so it contains the 5 expansions that were released for it. Alhambra's a really good family weight game, where you're basically laying tiles in your Alhambra, and you're picking up cards to pay for the buildings. So it's really simple, easy to teach, but there's a good depth of strategy there, and it could be quite interactive just by what you're picking and things like that. So yeah, Alhambra's one that I actually would like to play a lot more. I think it's best with 3 people, but it's a really solid family game. So I would recommend probably just getting the base game, not the big box, and see if you like that first. Over here, we've got a couple of Days of Wonders games. So we've got Quadropolis. So this one here is basically, it's a bit like a kind of city building game, like a Sim City kind of theme, although it's quite abstracted. And in it, you've got a grid and you're placing different buildings. And to select the buildings that you're placing, there's like a wee puzzle where you're putting architects around the side of the board. So it's almost like a kind of abstract puzzle game, really. With the kind of city building theme slapped on. But again, it's a really, really easy one to teach, really good family weight game. I think that it's really underrated actually. So it's also going out of print, so if you're interested in checking it out, I would recommend you grab a copy before it's gone. To the right of this is another one that's going out of print as well, I think. This is Yamatai. This is a gorgeous production. Again, it's quite an abstract game. You are building, kind of sailing around islands with boats and putting buildings on them, and just kind of, it's a kind of point salad game really, and it's very abstracted, but it's a really, really gorgeous production, and it's quite thinky as well. I would say I prefer Five Tribes, which is similar in a lot of ways, but Yamatai is still a good solid game as well. And again, if you're interested in checking it out, then grab it before it goes completely out of print, because that'll be pretty soon. Over here we've got Trains Rising Sun. So this is the kind of second version of the game, but it's standalone. And this is a deck building game with a board. So it's quite similar to Minion in the sense that you've got a pool of cards that you can buy from and you're building an engine, but there's also the board element as well. I think Train's theme is kind of an overdone theme, and it's not maybe the most gripping, theme for most people, but I really enjoy it, and I think it's a really solid deck builder. So again, one definitely worth checking out if you like deck builders. Over here, we've got City of Iron, the second edition. This is actually the only Ryan Laukat game that I own. Gorgeous production. It's got quite a cool theme. It's almost like a kind of fantasy steampunk thing where you're going around conquering cities or building cities, and you're trying to gather resources. The only thing is I've played this game 2-player, and I think it would be a lot better as a 3 or 4-player game because you're jostling for these different resources and there would be a wee bit more interaction. So yeah, it's probably not his strongest design, but it's a really, really solid game and a really gorgeous production. So that's City of Iron. Over here, we've got Empires of the North. Now, this is a game, a really recent acquisition, that's actually set in the Imperial Settlers universe, which is one of my favourite games. And this game, it's a bit different. Some of the mechanics have changed. I wouldn't necessarily say it's better or worse than Imperial Settlers, but it's a bit more accessible, I think. And it's got a lot of really nice mechanics. So if you like engine building games or kind of light civ games, this is one that's definitely worth checking out. Over here we've got Camel Up or Camel Cup, depending on how you read the box. This is basically it's a kind of camel race gambling game. It's very, very light. It's a total family game, and it's a good laugh. It's one that you don't really take too seriously. This is the first edition. They did release a second edition, which kind of a wee bit more refined art, but I prefer this kind of cartoony look, so I actually prefer the first edition. So yeah, that's Camel Up. Over here we've got Ticket to Ride Europe. So this is actually the second game, I believe, in the Ticket to Ride series. So it came after the original USA one. And this one's better for newer players because it's a wee bit more forgiving, because you can't get blocked out of routes as easily. But I actually prefer the original USA map. I like the fact it's a bit simpler and a wee bit more cutthroat. However, Europe is still a great version of Ticket to Ride. I'm quite happy to play any version of Ticket to Ride. It's a game system I really enjoy. But yeah, if you're new to it and you want something that's a bit more easy for new players to get into, I would recommend you check out Europe. Okay, over here we have got Steam Park. Now, Steam Park is an interesting one. First of all, it's got a really cool art style. It's the same woman that does the art for Dixit, which I also really like. And it's got quite a cool theme. You're building a theme park for robots. You've got all these really crazy rides and things. And it's got a really interesting action selection mechanic where you're rolling dice in real time and you're locking in the symbols onto a wee board, and then once you've locked all your dice in, you're done. So it's quite frantic, you know, because you're trying to roll your dice and get the symbols you need before anyone else, so that you can lock in early and get the bonus for going first. So yeah, a few interesting mechanics there. It's quite a light game with quite a whimsical theme. Yeah, it doesn't really get as much buzz now these days, but when it first came out, it, you know, generated a fair bit of reviews and things. So yeah, it's definitely a good game. So one that is definitely worth checking out. Over here we've got Sagrada. Sagrada is it's like a dice placement drafting game where you're trying to fill in. It's like a stained glass window with dice of different values, and there's rules for placement. It's got a really gorgeous production. It's really quite easy to play and teach. I probably would say I prefer Azul, which is quite similar in a lot of ways, but Sagrada is also a really solid game as well. So if you're looking for a nice looking abstract game that's really easy to teach and really easy to learn, but still gives you deep, meaningful choices, then have a look at Sagrada. And finally, on the right here, we have Sheriff of Nottingham. Now, this is actually a copy I picked up off of one of my friends because I left my original copy at one of the schools I was working at previously because the students loved it so much. This game is fantastic. It's a total bluffing game. You are just putting cards in a bag and you are looking someone in the eye and you're telling them what's in the bag. And you can either tell the truth or you can lie, and then the sheriff has to make that call. Lots of shenanigans. You can really get into the theme of the game as well, you know, with all the kind of you know, the kind of medieval English speak and things like that. It's really good fun. Sheriff of Nottingham, there's a reason it's a Dice Tower Essential. It's a really great fun game that will appeal just to so many people. So definitely, if you like games with negotiation and bluffing and, you know, quite light-hearted games, then Sheriff of Nottingham is probably one of the best experiences for that.